Hello, tonight we're going to try some re-engineering on a failed part. What we're looking at here is a pulley wheel from my little SnowJoe snowblower. It's just one of the small plug-in electric ones. I finally gave in and bought a snowblower this year. I live in Minnesota, we get a lot of snow. I've been shoveling for how many years, and decided I was gonna give the snowblower life a shot. I went with this one because it was cheap. It only cost me 90 bucks, and I figured if it didn't work, worst case scenario, I relegate it to, kind of small snow duty, and then I can get a bigger one for when we get the really big snowfalls. So, maybe not surprisingly, when I tried to use it on 10 inches of heavy wet snow this spring, it stripped out this pulley wheel. That bit there is not supposed to spin like that. There was plastic all the way around it, basically holding it in like a wrench. Although, why you would make a wrench out of plastic, I don't know. So, not surprisingly, it stripped out, so it doesn't spin the auger anymore. You can buy replacements for these. They're about 30 bucks online. Since I only paid 90 for the entire snowblower, I kind of have a hard time swallowing that, especially when you know that this is just going to happen again. If you look around, this is a fairly common failure on these. So, rather than just buy a replacement, I'm going to see if I can re-engineer this a little bit smarter. As it happens, I was also just watching a teardown of a single-stage gas snowblower, and they also had plastic pulley wheels. However, around the nut in the center, they also had kind of little fingers of metal that were going off into the plastic to help lock it in place. So rather than having essentially a plastic socket around here, and I mean, you can strip out a metal socket if you try hard enough. So it's not surprising that plastic didn't hold up. You actually had the little fingers of metal going off into there to kind of lock it into place a little bit better, and at least make it a whole lot harder to strip out the plastic. I'm sure it could still happen, but so what I'm going to try to do is to essentially replicate that in this failed piece, and the way I'm going to do that is to take a Dremel, try to cut some grooves into the plastic around the outside here, and then I'm going to take my JB Weld and stick that into the gap. And what I'm hoping is that the JB Weld will be harder than the plastic, and so it won't strip out against the nut, and the fingers that are going into the plastic will help lock it in place, and so it won't strip out the plastic either. So will it work? I have no idea. But I figured I already had all of this stuff, and I've got the broken part, so I might as well give it a shot. If it works, then I save myself $30, and I have a better engineered part. If it doesn't work, well, I'm no worse off than I was before. So, yeah, here we go. And I forgot to mention, the Dremel bit that I'm using for this is just, I don't know, it's some sort of little cutting blade. I've actually used it to do something similar out of wood in the past. So I'm hoping it will work for this, although it got kind of abused, as you can tell. It's pretty black, and I don't think it was that color when I started it out. So we'll see how this works. If it doesn't work, I guess we'll go to plan B. Ooh, that's a mess. Don't know if you can see that. Pretty much covered the blade in plastic. That's a problem for another time. Alright. Oop, I missed one. Okay. So, let's see. Gonna need to clean those up a little bit. Although actually, interestingly, it's already kind of locked in place now because of the bits that have come off of there. So That's promising. At least we're headed in the right direction. Hopefully once we throw some extra material in there, it will do the trick. So I'm going to go ahead, this is kind of fiddly little work, I'm just going to go ahead and clean this up, and then I'll bring you back. Okay, still not exactly pretty, but I at least cleaned up the protruding plastic up above, so I should be able to get a wrench back on that when I go to put it back on, which is kind of the main thing here. Next up, we'll go ahead and mix up some JB Weld and stick it into the holes there. I'm going to try using a zip tie for this, because it seems like it's kind of about the right size to kind of squish JB Weld into there. I guess we'll see how that works out. And then this is not an advertisement for Northern Tool. I'm just going to use that because it was in my junk mail pile and mix up the JB Weld on it. That's kind of nasty looking. I think I'm not going to use the first little bit that came out there. As you can see, this is kind of an old tube. Had it for a few years, so it may not even be any good anymore. It looks pretty even, so hopefully it'll do the trick. Alright, that seems to be pretty well mixed. I don't see any more streaks of black or gray in there, or black or white I mean. Looks to be pretty much all gray, so although there's a little bit left on the zip tie. Let me see if I can mix that in. Ooh, and actually I lied, there's a big streak of black down there. Okay, more mixing. Alright, I'm calling that good. So, here we go. Let's see if we can get some of that into the gaps here. Okay, I think I'm going to need something even smaller than this. I'm going to go grab myself a toothpick and I will be right back, hopefully before the JB Weld sets. And I'm back, hopefully with the right tool this time. Okay, so that's a start, but I can assure you that those holes are not completely full. So we are going to keep shoving stuff in here. Also, I want to try to fill in all of those gaps along the edge there, if I can. Alright, well, I think you get the idea. I'm going to shut you off here, and I'll bring you back when I'm done. Okay, I think I've done about all I can do there. Not going to win any style points, certainly, but I'm hoping that I kept it far enough down, at least, that it won't interfere with getting a wrench on there later. I guess we'll see how that works. So I believe JB Weld needs to cure for 24 hours, which means that I won't be able to test this until at least tomorrow. So just going to put this away, let it dry out, or cure. Doesn't really dry, I guess. Kind of? I don't know. It's a chemical process. Anyway, going to let this sit and cure overnight, and then I will pick this back up tomorrow, and still got some snow out at the lot, and I'm hoping I can go ahead and give this a test run out there and see if it works, because that is exactly the kind of snow that broke it in the first place. Oh, And obviously, I didn't really clean up inside of those holes much. For one thing, there wasn't a whole lot of way to do it. I'm hoping that the JB Weld got in there well enough to just kind of fill the gaps so that it doesn't need to really stick to either side. It's just a filler piece. There's going to be a mechanical lock in there as opposed to it actually bonding to either one of the materials, although hopefully it will do that too. Anyway, so we will pick this up tomorrow night, I guess. Alright, the JB Weld seems to have set up pretty nicely overnight. I don't know if you'll be able to see that. It was a little bit soft this morning still when I got up. I was even able to leave indentations with just my thumbnail there. So even though it had been sitting for probably 8 or 10 hours at that point, it wasn't quite ready. So I actually took this whole thing and stuck it in front of my space heater all day while I was working, and that seems to have helped it set up. So it's nice and hard now, should be good to go. So the next thing up is just to go ahead and put it back on the machine. And so here you can see that, and this just threads on to that right there. If I remember correctly, it's actually reverse threaded, and then there is this screw and washer, actually 2 washers, that go down the middle to hold everything together. You may notice that the screw is pretty mangled. That was thread locked in there so well that I had to take a dead blow hammer to a vice grips to get the screw out. Even without camming out the screwdriver, it was just shearing off the threads, or it was just shearing the screw head when I was trying to take it out with the impact driver. So that's a bit of a mess. Unfortunately, it's a pandemic right now, so I don't really want to go to the hardware store for one screw. So I'm just going to put it back in as is for right now. Ooh, out of focus. And then hopefully by next winter, when I'm going to be using this regularly, I can go ahead and get a real screw and thread lock that back in there a little bit more reasonably, and we'll be good to go. That's assuming that this even works. So for the moment, just going to test it with the old screw, and then we'll see what happens. So, next thing up, just go ahead and put this back on, get the belt routed and everything, put the screw back in, and then we'll give it a test, probably with the panel still off so that I can see what's going on, make sure that everything looks okay, and then I'll go see if I can find some snow to throw with it. Alright, that ought to hold at least for a quick test, so let's see if it's working. Alright, turn you around a little bit so that you can see the auger in front, and we'll go see if this is going to spin now. Alright, so that seemed like it had quite a bit of wiggle in it, you know, just a lot of back and forth. I don't know if it always did that or if that's a new thing as a result of my fix. So I'm going to go take a look at that and see if I can figure out why it's doing that. Alright, well, I don't see anything wrong with it. Everything seems to be tight. I shouldn't have my fingers in there, it's still plugged in. Anyway, everything seems to be tight. And it is vibrating quite a bit when I run it, but I'm not 100% sure it didn't always do that. I mean, it is a snowblower after all. So I think I'm going to go ahead and take it outside, see if it will actually throw any snow, and we'll find out if this fix is going to hold, even for a little bit. Obviously, won't know if it's going to hold up in the long term until I've had a long time to test it. We'll hopefully do a follow-up video about this, maybe next winter after I've had a few good solid snows to use it through, assuming I don't end up getting a bigger one between now and then, which is entirely possible. So let's go give this a test and see if it's going to hold. Alright, there's still a little bit of snow left along the side of my driveway from the last snowstorm, so I'm going to go ahead and see if the repair will hold up to actually throwing that. Alright, well, so far so good. I'm going to go ahead and clean that snow out of there and put the side cover back on, and then I might take it out to the lot and see if we can test it out on a little bit more snow than just this little bit along the driveway here. Alright, so I got as much snow out of there as I could. The rest of it will just have to melt. It's not like this is a watertight compartment anyway. So just going to go ahead and button up the side panel again and we'll be good to go. Oh, and if you're doing this, don't forget to put the middle skid back on. Just kind of goes in here like so. And then these two little short screws go up here in the top where this runs right up against the edge of the auger opening here. So there's a space for the longer screws. So if you forget where they go, that's the way to figure it out. Alrighty, and that should do it. Okay, out at the lot now. Obviously haven't done any snow removal out here. You can see all the way out to the road and back into the garage is still snow. So I am going to see if I can snowblow myself at least a path out to the road, and we'll see if the repair holds up to that. The snow's been sitting here for at least 2 or 3 days now, and it was really heavy and wet when it fell. And it should be nice and frozen solid now because it's been cold since then. So this should be a pretty good test because it's going to be some nasty, crusty snow. So let's see how it goes. Okay, so good news and bad news. The good news is I did all of this and it was perfectly happy. The bad news is that I got a little bit ambitious with my testing and decided to try to do some of the icy junk down at the end. And the snowblower does not sound all that happy with that. It's still throwing, but I have decided that I'm going to play the discretion is the better part of valor card and stop here. I might go home, take off the side panel again and see if trying to chew through this frozen stuff out here did any more damage. If it still looks okay, then who knows, maybe there was just a piece of ice stuck on the impeller or the auger or something, and it's fine. But before I completely trash it again, I'm going to stop for now, and if I find anything that looks bad, I will add onto this video and see what happens. Alright, so we've got good news and bad news. The good news is that the JB weld all still seems to be there. Everything still feels tight. I don't feel any play or anything in it. However, the bad news is that there are definitely some cracks in the JB weld. I don't know if you're going to be able to see that. So I guess as long as they stay there, and it doesn't seem to be cracked like along where it's joined with the nut there. So I don't know, maybe the plastic flexes and it's split kind of along some of these little seams there. So I don't know exactly what's going on with that. I did notice that the whole bottom down here seems to have filled up with snow, which I'm thinking might explain why I was hearing some noises as I was finishing up there. Because I'm not seeing anything out of this that would suggest that it should be making noise. It's just not, everything's still tight. So I guess we'll call this one a provisional success. Seems like it's working. I don't know, maybe I didn't get the outer cover back on well enough or something. Maybe it wasn't seated on this lip or something, and that's why we got all this ice in here, because I had put the cover back on. So anyway, I guess I'll clean that out again, put the cover back on, and next winter we'll see how this holds up. Thanks for watching. Just one quick follow-up. As I'm putting this back together, I see that this was my mistake. There's this little tab down here, and you need to make sure that the cover is inside of that so that it seals nicely along the bottom here. So that would be where all that snow came from, and as you can see, I have put it back in properly this time, so hopefully that won't happen again. Alright, that's it.